Is this thing on? Hey everybody, welcome back to another episode of the Summits Podcast. Thank you for tuning in wherever you get your podcasts or viewing us. I know it's kind of scary.
I know.
Yeah.
On
YouTube. If you have not subscribed to the Heroes Foundation YouTube channel, go ahead and smash that subscribe button, hit that little notification bell so you can be alerted when new episodes drop. It's been a little while. So thanks for coming back. We apologize for the delay. Had spring breaks, we had to do. Get out of Indy.
How was spring break?
It was
Good,
all right.
Bad? Indifferent?
Seniors in high school, so a lot
Where'd
of
you
things
go?
can happen. Week 1 was Siesta Key. Week 2 was Fort Myers.
Okay.
No one was arrested that I was aware of or that I was responsible for.
Okay.
Yeah.
So success.
Yeah, it wasn't too bad.
Arrested but fled from the cops, or just not arrested?
There was fleeing.
Okay. All right.
There was fleeing.
There was fleeing.
Allegedly.
Supposedly.
Yeah. Oh no, not supposedly.
No,
for sure.
For sure.
Good episode today, guys. Got a longtime friend joining us today, who's married to another longtime friend. So we'll get into that. Dr. Erik Barrett, welcome to the Summits Podcast.
Thank you. Yeah, thanks for having me. Absolutely.
Appropriate colored hat, although it doesn't have an IU logo.
I thought
on it,
about
but
wearing
that's
my Hoosiers hat, but I decided on this one instead. Yeah.
Coloring was right for you.
There you go.
So, yeah.
Why don't you give our viewers a little background history on you?
Yeah, sure. So my name's Erik Barrett. I grew up in the Indianapolis area. Went to North Central High School.
Panthers.
Panther Pride. And
Is that what you guys did?
I
there?
guess. Yeah.
I don't know what's Byron and Rohan.
Oh, is that what those guys do? Yeah,
Right.
you know. And then went to IU for undergrad. I think that's probably where you and I crossed paths first, Vinny. Down at the.
I would say, yeah.
Yeah, I was a Sigma Chi down there. Vinny was a Fiji. Could you not get a bid at Sigma Chi? Is that what happened there?
You blacklisted, or yeah?
I'm not even sure how to respond to that right now.
But anyways, so did that, and then moved back to Indianapolis after graduation. Went to medical school at IU in downtown Indianapolis, and that's when we got to know each other pretty well. I think just because we all lived in Broderpool.
Not that I was in medical school, because we all know that was not.
No, you were kind of hanging around the med students. So
Well, yeah.
So I did that, and then 4 years of medical school, and then I decided to go into ophthalmology as a specialty. So I did an internship at Methodist Hospital. Then my wife and I moved to Dallas, Texas, where I did my ophthalmology residency for 3 years. And after the residency, we moved back to Indianapolis, and I started a practice. I've got an office in Carmel and an office in Fishers. I've got
Barrett Eyecare.
Barrett Eyecare.
We're not above plugging.
That's
Shameless
right.
plug.
Right. We do have openings available
There
if you're
you
looking
go.
for an eye doctor
There
and
you
need
go.
one. Give us a call.
Yeah.
And so I live in Carmel with my wife Hillary, and I've got two daughters. I was going to say two young daughters, but they're not young anymore.
No,
I got
not.
two young ladies, two
Okay.
high school daughters that are at Carmel High School, a freshman and a junior. So 3 women in my house and myself. So it's there's never a dull moment. That's for sure.
Yeah.
You know how that goes.
I'll second that. So we fast forward a little bit through that. I'm going to go back and touch on a few things. North Central days.
Mm-hmm.
So, and this will go into IU as well. Big tennis player. You can shine on yourself.
It's been, that seems like a lifetime ago. But
High school tennis career.
I did.
Snapshot.
Okay, I did play tennis at North Central for 4 years. We had good teams. 2 of the years we won state championships. And my senior year I played #1 singles.
Okay.
At North Central, so that was tennis was a big part of my life. And then I went down to IU and played tennis for 4 years down at IU.
Okay.
And we had some nice teams down there as well. I played #1 singles at IU my senior year. Yeah.
Nice.
So.
Nice.
And haven't really picked up a racket since. I'm trying to pick up this game called golf and learn how to play that.
Ah, okay. That would explain the logo on your chest there.
Yeah, exactly.
Okay.
I appreciate the humility. But so let me tell you this. So any golfers out there know that boring golf is actually okay.
Yeah.
Erik might have one of the more boring games of golf I've ever seen, but it's really fucking good. So that is not a negative when I say it's boring. Very good player. We'll talk about golf
Thank
a little
you.
bit.
Yeah.
Yeah. All three of us can.
Yeah.
It's a
we can talk
passion.
about that for a while.
It's a
Yeah.
passion, and I picked it up after college, and I can't get enough of it. It's a lot of fun.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Vinny and I get out a little bit and play some.
You haven't picked up pickleball yet, have you?
Not yet. I feel like I'm a little young for that. I know that's probably coming. Maybe once I hit 50 and the girls are out of the house, I'm going to have some time.
Yeah.
So I haven't transitioned to that yet, but I know that's pretty hot right now.
Yeah.
My well, speaking of age, but my dad that's his regimen of exercise is playing pickleball.
It's great exercise, right?
He loves it, which is great. The crazy thing is, so he's 83.
Is he 83? Okay.
So he's a lot of times we'll say he's out there playing with 60-year-olds, and you think, well, 60 is still kind of older, right? Oh, he's 20 years their senior, but he loves it, enjoys it, kind of gets his old. It's been a long time since he played tennis. He played tennis in college too.
Right.
I knew that, but it's been a long time. I found a T-shirt for him for Christmas that says "Dink and Drink," and he thought it was hysterical. And I was like, "Yep, that's
his life right now, right?
Pretty much.
I like it.
Yeah.
I like it.
So we touched on tennis. Your wife, Hillary, kind of a quick snapshot. So I've known Hillary since we were kids. Hillary's from Elkhart, but her father and her mother, and her aunt and uncle are friends with my parents and have been since they were I don't know 20s or 30s somewhere in there back in the early days. So it's just kind of funny how that.
And then you guys used to vacation down in Fort Myers Beach on spring break when you were younger,
right? Yeah. So
before I
parents
even
had
knew her.
condos in the same building.
Right. Such a small world.
Yeah.
Yeah, it is.
Spring breaks of old. Those were fun. Long time ago.
There was no arresting in those spring breaks either, right?
I don't recall.
That was a long time
Did the
ago.
dink and drink have something to do with that?
That's right. The dink and drink.
Okay, let me. I'll say this. One little comment on high school spring breaks, and I'm as a father, I'm thankful. I think that the 2 spring breaks I just witnessed for my seniors in high school, as in terms of kids, were tamer than our senior year spring break.
Okay, and that's a good thing.
And that's a good thing.
Yeah, absolutely.
And we'll just leave it at that. I made that statement to me, and she's like, "So what happened?" I go, "Nothing."
No comment. No comment.
Well, we, you guys know that this podcast is all about what's your cancer story, and I know the three of us, as we've talked about before, have more than a couple to share. So we'll start with the personal one, and with April being Testicular Cancer Awareness Month, Erik, what's your cancer story?
Yeah, so I was diagnosed with testicular cancer coming up on 15 years. This will be the 15-year anniversary.
Awesome.
And it was actually July 4th. I remember the day, obviously we all do when that diagnosis came. We remember it feels like it was just yesterday. But we were talking a little bit earlier about Lance Armstrong, and I had read his book probably a few years before. He was, he's a famous kind of, testicular cancer survivor. And, going through medical school, being a physician, I understood the importance of screening and, checking yourself. So, I would do, regular exams, just kind of check for testicular cancer. I was in that age range. I was in the demographic. And I remember being in the shower that morning and found a lump, and I thought, I don't really remember that being there before. So I didn't think a lot about it, kind of slept on it, said, maybe, who knows, maybe it was, maybe some inflammation, infection or something. Next morning, same thing. And I started to get a little worried. So did a little research on the internet, and once again, having a little bit of a decent understanding of the anatomy and the science of it. I was kind of going through the list of things it could be as I was reading. I'm like, I don't think it's that. I don't think it's that. And I kind of went through 4 or 5 things, and then the list kind of ran out. The next thing said, well, you probably should get checked out. It could be cancer. So I got worried at that point. And so I found out on Wednesday, checked again on Thursday. I called Urology of Indiana. And it was the holiday weekend, so it was not the ideal time. And they're like, we're all jammed up. And they worked me in Friday afternoon to see Dr. Bill Sherrill. Do you know Bill Sherrill?
I know that name.
Yeah, he's a great guy. And I just ended up kind of getting in to see him because he had a spot. And I think his nurse recognized that I was a little bit nervous and went in. He did an exam. He was great. And he said, whenever you have that cancer diagnosis, it just crystallizes everything for you. And I remember sitting in the room, and he said, yeah, you got something there. And I said, what do you think it is? And he said, I think it's a tumor. He said, I think it's cancer. And, you just kind of, whoa, it takes you back. But he said, it doesn't feel that big. And he said, I don't know what stage it is or anything, but, it doesn't seem that big, and you seem healthy. You're not having any other issues. So, if this is hopefully like a stage 1 type of thing, he says very high survival rate. He said, chance survival's, 90%, 95% or something. And he walked out of the room.
But you're sitting there, you're saying, holy shit, we're talking about survival.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah.
And I'm glad you brought that up, because a lot of people, when I tell that story, say, oh man, were you relieved? And I say, I was scared to death. I was absolutely scared to death, because I'd just been told I had cancer. I'm a young, healthy guy. Try and eat pretty well, drink a little bit, not too much anymore. Don't smoke, try and stay active, try and stay fit, college athlete, felt like I took care of my body, and bam, it hits you, and it does hit you like a ton of bricks. And I couldn't focus initially, for whatever reason, on that 90 to 95% survival rate. I was thinking about the 5 to 10% that don't make it. You know what I mean? It hit me hard, and he kind of came back in, and he could tell I was pretty rattled, and he was good. He said, I think you're going to be okay, but they never say you're going to be okay. It's like, we think, we hope, you know what I mean? But so he said, I'm going to set you up with for an ultrasound, and he got me in the next day. So on a Saturday, went in and saw the radiologist, who at that point was John Morton, who was just happened to be a family friend, which was great. And he said, I think it's a tumor. So it went fast for me at that point. I was very fortunate that these guys really took care of me. Bill Sherrill said, I operate on Tuesday. I'm going to put you on the schedule for Tuesday. And then what ended up happening is a friend of my parents was friend with Pat Lair, and Pat well. Yeah. Pat at the time was not the director of the Simon Cancer Center, but he eventually became, and he just stepped down and he just retired. Oh, yeah. He's awesome. I mean, I think you've worked with him on some boards and stuff. Yeah. He's fabulous, and he kind of heard about it, and he ended up calling me on that Saturday, and we talked through it a little bit. And he had a relationship with Larry Einhorn, obviously, who was kind of the guru at that time, and I mean, I was obviously in the right spot. So he got me set up on Monday for all of the scans and stuff, which was in the lab test, which is kind of the big deal, because you got a mass, and it's got to come out, but you don't know, is this stage 1 or is this stage 4? There's huge variation in prognosis on that, and I knew that. So I was a mess, and we got down. We did all the tests, and there was a doctor down there, Dr. Foster, who was kind of a bigwig down there. I don't know if I never met him, but he called me on Monday, kind of through Pat, and just said, "Hey, this is what's going on. We don't have the results yet, but." And I said, what should I do? He said, have Bill Sherrill take that thing out on Tuesday, and then we'll see what it shows, basically. So had the orchiectomy, which is just a removal on that Tuesday. Not a huge procedure. We did it outpatient. I went home. And then I had a meeting with Dr. Lair on Friday. And that was the toughest week for me, because I just didn't know. Your mind's running wild, and it's like, you're just going through all the different permutations and contingencies, and you're hoping for the best, you're thinking for the best, but you're worried about the worst, right? Mm-hmm. And we talked, a little bit about the Lance thing, and it was everywhere in his body, and he didn't even really know it. So I felt fine. I wasn't having any symptoms, but so I went in, and on Friday, and Dr. Lair was great. He met with me on a Friday afternoon, maybe an hour meeting. He knew how anxious I was, and the first thing he said, I think, it doesn't look like it's spread. I think it's stage 1. And it was like a weight had been lifted off my shoulders. Mm-hmm. It was, you get bad news, and then all of a sudden this is some good news. And, and that really, made me feel at ease. He said, we're going to keep checking you. And he had mentioned something about a couple spots on my lungs, which he kind of glossed over, which I'm glad he did at the time, because he wasn't sure. I don't think he was 100% sure that it hadn't, but he thought those might just be old histo lesions. And it turns out that's what they were, but he was going to monitor it. But he didn't want to say anything about that, because so anyways, we're thinking at stage 1, and he said, that's the good news. He said, bad news is the type of cell is the most aggressive type of testicular cancer. And testicular cancer by nature is a very aggressive type of cancer. It's fortunately very treatable, but it's very aggressive, and especially this kind. So he said, you know, that the bad news is, the good news is we don't think it's spread. The bad news is there's probably a 35 to 40% chance it could come back. And that kind of, and then I'm like, so I go from feeling great, and I'm like, whoa, like that, you're telling me there's like maybe almost a 50% chance that this thing might come back. He said, here's what we're going to do. He said, we're going to monitor you every 4 weeks. You're going to come down here. We're going to do tumor markers. We're going to do chest x-ray. We're going to do CT scans. You know what I mean? And he said, if it does come back, we're going to catch it. And I said, you know, we talked about, because I don't know what you guys can relate to, but I was like, let's just do this. Like, you know, I wanted to do, you know, surgery. We did that. Let's do chemo. Let's do radiation. You know how you're all amped up and you just want to fight it. You know what I mean? Like you just want to, like I just, you know, once I found the mass, I wanted to take it out myself. You know what I mean? That's just, I think our instinct is just to get rid of it, get it out of the body. Yeah. And he's like, no, he's like, you know, the studies have shown, you know, they did a study, this is, you know, 15 years ago, but he said, you know, they've got a new study out of Germany where people with stage 1 testicular cancer, they gave them a lower dose of chemo, you know, to kind of preventative. He said, and we did that here, and we had one patient that came back, and they had almost like a mutated type of cancer that had become a little resistant to it. And it really freaked them out. And they were like, you know what, we're not going to do that. He's like, you just got to trust that we're going to watch this, and it may not come back, but it may. Yeah. And if it does, you know, you're very responsible, reliable. Obviously, we know you're going to come back and see us, and we're going to catch it.
Is there any like metrics on like, it's like first like to 18 or you know, 10 weeks, 18 weeks, whatever, like where it's like most likely going to happen?
Absolutely. And he basically said, it's most likely to come back sooner. Okay. So basically every week that we get out from this and it hasn't come back is good. You know, every month that we get out as either that number goes down, right? Yeah. So so I left there thinking, okay, well, you know, good, bad, whatever. And you know, the first 6 months I got into this routine where, you know, every 4 weeks we're going back down there. And you know, I think everybody's cancer, you know, journey is different. I think for me, mine was a lot more psychological and mental, anxiety driven rather than actually physical suffering. You know what I mean? I was fortunate in the sense that, and I think everybody's is obviously psychological and mental. It's a challenge no matter what. But I was fortunate where, you know, I didn't have the chemo, I didn't have the radiation, the surgery wasn't some huge surgery. But it was really mentally taxing, that sort of the waiting, you know what I mean? Kind of the waiting and the doing nothing worked out, and he was right. But at the same time, it would, you know, it would build in me those 4 weeks, you know, as you're kind of getting to that day where you've got marked on your calendar where you're going to go down there and find out if your cancer's come back. And you haven't done anything to kind of prevent it at that point. And it wasn't like a 5% chance that it was going to come back. I mean, you know, they're quoting you these numbers that there's a decent chance that this could come back. So mentally, you're kind of preparing for that. And I'd go down there, and Hillary and I would go down there, and we'd go down, you know, every Monday morning, and I'd get the tumor markers, and I'd get the chest X-ray, and I'd get the CT scans. We'd go up and see him, and he would usually say, well, the chest X-ray looks okay, but we got to wait on the tumor markers and we got to wait on the CT. So that after that Friday afternoon, I would go back to work, and I was just miserable. You know what I mean? It's you're looking at the clock. Why are they not calling? You know, and then as it gets later in the day, they're busy down there seeing other cancer patients. You know what I mean? And but you know, you're waiting on that call, and sometimes, you know, occasionally they wouldn't call, and so at like 7 o'clock, I'm trying to get a hold of the resident on call to find out, you know, can you look up my tumor markers? Can you tell me what's going on? And then your mind starts to wander. Are they all in a room huddled trying to figure out, you know, what chemo they're planning for you, and they're going to call you because they want to have a plan, you know? But I'll tell you what, guys, it was an interesting time for me, because when I would get that call and they would say your tumor markers are negative and your scans are clear, it was an unbelievable, just kind of a cathartic feeling where your whole body, I mean, it was euphoria, right? Because it's built up in you, and it was you know, I was thinking about this last night because we were doing this, and it was an interesting time in my life, because I lived my life in 4 week intervals, you know what I mean? And the moment I I got the news that I didn't have cancer, I was like, okay, I'm cancer free. I've got 4 weeks now where I know I don't have cancer. So we're going to try and just live these 4 weeks. Not that I'm going to party and be a crazy guy, but just really enjoy being cancer free for 4 weeks. And then in 4 weeks, we'll see where we are and do it again. Yeah. And it's a liberating feeling because, we live in this world where you're always worried about all the kind of minutia, work, kids, family, and all that kind of went away, where it was just like, you just feel very grateful and very blessed to have that time there. And not that stuff's not important, but when you're dealing with cancer and, life and death, it's not important. Like there's other things, this is what's important. Mm-hmm. And that stuff, it gave me some real clarity that, maybe since I've lost a little bit of that, but I try, you try and keep that in perspective if you can pull a positive out of the situation.
Yeah.
And we just kind of plugged along, you know what I mean? And each time I went down there, another week, another month is behind you. And I got 6 months out, and he said, okay, this is good. See, the percentage, like you had asked, it's gone down. Yeah. So we're looking at, not 38% now, we're maybe at 30%. And he said, we're going to back you off to every other month. So at first I was a little harder because I was programmed to go down there every 4 weeks, and now we're going 8 weeks. So the first time I'm just, kind of, and then you just kind of, you learn to live with it. And, my approach to it, and everybody, like I say, everybody's cancer story is different. I hoped for the best, but I tried to maybe prepare for the worst. I don't know if that makes sense. You know what I mean? Because I didn't want to be blindsided by the fact that I didn't want to just have this blind hope that, hey, everything's going to be okay. I thought everything was going to be okay. The numbers were pointing that everything was probably going to be okay. I mean, all the statistics were on my side, but I'm a bit of a planner, and it was a little bit of, okay, well, what if these come back positive? What's the next step? And I did some research and some studying, and what else do we do? She learned about the different surgeries that could happen and the chemotherapy and stuff, and just to prepare, just to be proactive.
Do you think your background of med school and whatnot was a blessing or a curse?
Excellent question. Both.
Yeah.
Both. I mean, really both in different ways. Yeah. And I think from a science standpoint, I think it was good. I think it was good to understand it and to understand the numbers. Mm-hmm. And but also when you're a physician, especially when you're doing rotations in medical school and you're in the hospital and internship, like you see all the bad stuff. You know what I mean? Like, you don't see the people that just kind of survive cancer and blow through it a lot of times. You don't see them. You see the ones that keep coming back to the hospital because they're really sick. Yeah. So you get a little bit of a distorted view of disease.
I'm sure those are the ones that stick with you too.
Yeah, absolutely. So disease, you always see the worst of the disease processes. You know what I mean? Because they're the ones that you're trying to treat and make better. The ones that you can make better, they go off and live their lives. So it's a good question, and I think for me it was good because I think my personality is I like to know about things and understand, and so I think it was good. But at the same time, I feel like I was pretty real about the sense that this could be a real problem for me. You know what I mean? Like not everybody does well with this, even though the prognosis is very good. Mm-hmm. When you're in the hospital, you don't see the 95% that just survive and go off and do well. You see the 5% that aren't doing well. So maybe it jades you a little bit on that. Yeah. So, so I just kind of kept trucking along, and, we made it to a year, and all was good. And I think at that point we spaced it out to every 3 months. Life started to go back to normal a little bit. You kind of start to think, okay, well, maybe we'll get through this. You know what I mean?
Right.
And, I talked. I was watching the podcast that you did with Julie Drew the other night. Julie's a good friend of ours, and it made me think a lot about Dave Drew, who's a friend of ours that we lost to glioblastoma. And when I walked into that room and they said you've got cancer, but you're it's just survival rate or whatever is 95%. I just all I could think about how scared I was and what would happen. What about somebody that walks in the room and they say your survival rate's 5%. You know what I mean? Mm-hmm. And unfortunately, with Dave, our good buddy, I mean, that's what happened to him. And it's amazing. It's just amazing. Not all cancers are created the same. And we have testicular cancer. I mean, I was fortunate. I mean, we've got a great treatment for it, and we have a way to screen for it, and I could catch it early and treat it, and that's why I'm here. You know what I mean? And we don't have that, unfortunately, for all cancers, and we're getting there. But regardless, it for me, it was, it was a life-changing experience, and I think, it's never easy to go through cancer, but my sort of path with the testicular cancer had to be one of the easier ones, at least from a physical, treatment standpoint, and not having to suffer a lot physically, and it basically going as well as it could go. Right. And it still shook me to my core. And that's why anytime I meet somebody or talk to somebody that's been a cancer survivor, I'm just, you just kind of know what they've gone through. You know what I mean? Mm-hmm. It's a terrible disease, and it affects us all, either directly or indirectly. It just seems like it's almost an epidemic out there.
Right.
Yeah.
Well, we're certainly glad you're still here for a lot of the obvious reasons.
Me too.
But you're not just here. You decide. I mean, it'd be one thing to survive and just kind of go along with your life and plug away. But
right.
You guys, you and Hillary were obviously supporters of the Heroes Foundation even before your personal experience. Uh-huh. After the fact, though, and I think it might have been a year out. My memory's not the greatest anymore, but you were another person who I had a conversation with about, hey, we're doing events to raise money. What, we all like golf. What about a golf event? And we had kind of gone down that path before, saying, well, there's 8 bazillion golf outings.
Right.
How do we be different? If Erik Barrett's going to do 5 charity outings a year, how do we make sure you're one of those 5?
Right.
That sets you apart from all the others. And I don't know what year it was or when it was specifically, but finally, after some multiple conversations, we finally had that idea of, hey, here's a suggestion. It's a little different because of this and because of that. And you and I chatted, and we both kind of have a similar mindset. Like,
right.
We don't. No offense to all the charity scrambles out there. Really, no offense.
It's not going to be a hit and giggle.
Those 7-hour rounds, no, thank you.
Yeah.
And we're competitive when we get out there.
Sure.
And so, how do we make this a competitive tournament? And so that's kind of where Swing for Heroes came about.
Yeah.
And
Yeah.
we are,
Absolutely.
5 years later, and we expanded.
Yeah.
I think I shared this with you, but the 2022 event, which is in September, already sold out.
You told me that, right? Yeah, I got that email, which is unbelievable, because I remember when we first started the thing, we're trying to get 18 24-somes just to get the course semi-full. Right. You know what I mean? Just to break even. You know what I mean? Yeah. And then. But yeah, and going back to our kind of history, so everything you've done with the Heroes has been unbelievable. The gala, the first Heroes gala, I'm sure, I don't know if anybody's told you this story, but it was at Highland Country Club, and we had a keg, just a keg of beer, kind of in the dance area there. You know what I mean? And Vinny showed up, and I don't know how many of us were there. Not a ton. We had a great evening. And it grew from that. I mean, it was at Highland for a while.
Yeah, we were there for 7 years, maybe.
Okay.
Something like that.
Okay. And I haven't been to every Heroes Gala, but I've been to a bunch of them. I've been to the first one, and I've kind of watched it grow. And it's been amazing just to see. It's been amazing what you've done. It really has been. Just it's been inspirational to see what you've done for the cancer community and the way you've branched out and to build that gala into what it is, and the whole foundation and the stuff that you've added as time goes on. But going back to the golf outing, I mean, you and I are avid golfers. Average golfers. We like to think we're above average, but
fair.
But we play enough. We should be above average. But I think golf is always something that we've enjoyed doing, and it's something that's an important pastime for us, and it's a good I mean, I think it's a great addition to sort of the heroes, armamentarium of events that you're doing. You did the, the cycle thing, I think you did first, and you just keep adding stuff. But to your point, everybody's got a golf outing, right? Like, I mean, and that's not a bad thing. Everybody loves to play golf. It's a good way to raise money. So, we kind of sat down, you and I think there were a couple other people that kind of put our heads together and said, yeah, how can we make this special? And the concept was, let's make it, a little bit more serious where you can kind of play your own ball, score your own thing. Let's bring some pros in and make it more of a pro-am where we get...
Still waiting on Tiger to show up.
Yeah.
You can use a cart.
Yeah.
Just come on in.
We should get Phil now. Phil's not real busy, right?
Well,
you think, that might be a better
form
option.
the Hero Super League.
That's right, exactly.
Well, no, we're not forming a league.
No. But he might be looking for work. But anyways, so let's get some pros and make it a nice pro-am event. And we were able to, between Highland and Crooked Stick and some of the pros and some of the folks that we know, get a lot of the better pros. Get a lot of the better pros from the area. Generate a purse for them to make a little money if they win, and also, I mean, it's to have a good time, right? It's to get everybody out there. It's to raise money for cancer. It's cancer awareness. I mean, I feel like every year we have it. The weather's been perfect. We've lucked out. Knock on wood. We do it in the fall, but to see the growth of that has been fantastic. Like I say, the first time we did it, I'm getting emails from Vinny every week. Yeah, but you got to find a foursome. I'm like cold calling people now. Like, I'm trying here. You know what I mean?
Checking out at the grocery store. Hey,
exactly. Right. You heard of the Heroes Foundation? What about Highland? So, and it's just growing. I mean, it's growing organically, right? Like, I think we've done, you've done a great job with it, and it's people hit play in it, and then they want to come back and play in it, and then the word kind of spreads. Hey, this is a nice event. Now, we've got two start times filled, right?
2 start times.
So we basically doubled the field,
right.
And raising a lot of money. It's a really neat event. Yeah, we bring in the Travis Matthew truck, and you get a nice goodie bag, and there's some beverages out there, some alcoholic beverage.
There's a couple of
few alcoholic beverages out there on
Tito's
a. What do we do? Thursday? Are we Thursday afternoon now?
It'll be a Thursday afternoon.
Yeah, Thursday morning and afternoon. Thursday all day. And we just have a good time, and it's I think it's a well supported event. It'll just keep growing. Hopefully, I mean, our plan was let's get this thing as big as we can. You know what I mean?
Right,
and let's do multiple courses. And we've now migrated to 2 start times, which is good.
Right.
We've got Highland basically full, so we'll see where we can go from here.
Yeah.
And I think there was some talk of trying at some point to incorporate the party, the PIF party into that. I know
we talked about
with that a little bit. We had a lot of different ideas.
Yeah. There's no shortage of ideas.
We're idea guys. We struggle sometimes with the excision, but we've got a lot of great ideas. It's like getting Tiger and Phil here, right? That's a great idea.
Lots of ideas. They're not all good ones, but we have lots of ideas.
Right.
So I appreciate your support of that event. It's exceeded our expectations through the first 5 years for sure. What I like about it also is the majority of people who participate in it understand the vision for the event, but also understand the vision for the dollars raised at that event. And that while some of those certainly go to the here and now, it's also a way for us to fund our endowment such that, when you and I are long gone, the Heroes Foundation is still going. Because cancer will still be here. Hopefully, those odds that we talked about earlier are in better favor on some of the cancers that are still a little tricky today. But people will still get diagnosed.
Absolutely.
And still have that experience.
And I think one thing that I've learned through this journey is, I read a lot about cancer and tried to learn a lot about it just as being affected by it. And we're really getting there. I mean, we're really getting there. And I remember when I was in medical school, I graduated medical school in 2000, so this would have been the late 90s. I mean, a lot of the treatments that we were doing back then with the chemo was
I thought we graduated from high school in 2000.
Maybe. I mean, we look like we did, but I think it might have been closer to 1991 from high school. But a lot of the chemotherapies were just kind of blast all the cells and kill everything. And now we're really we're getting there. With some of these treatments, I mean, I know you learn a lot about it and study about it. A lot of these targeted treatments where we're understanding the cancer cell and how to treat it, we're going to get there. We're going to get there with these cancers eventually. And it's come so far just in, the 20 years or whatever. We've got a ways to go, but I mean, that's why what you guys do with Heroes is so amazing, because the more money we can generate and the more money we can pump into research and development. I mean, we want our kids to not have the same fear that you and I, that we all did when we were diagnosed. Okay. Right. We want this to be a manageable disease. We're not there yet. I think with some of the cancers, we are getting pretty darn close, but I 20 years ago, going through medical school, learning about it, I wouldn't have said that. But now I do think, and I've talked with Dr. Lair a little bit about that. He's the progress that we've made is just, it's really incremental, and it's really taken off, and we're going to get there, and it's, for me, I think for all of us, it's one of the most impactful, things of our lifetime. I just can't stress enough how important, these organizations are in raising money, because the more that we do, the better chance we have to beat it. We really do, and it's a neat thing. So yeah, Vinny, I love what you've done with the Heroes. I just think it's fantastic.
Well,
and
we appreciate
I've just
that.
kind of watched you from afar, and I admire everything that you've done and continue to do. Yeah.
Well, we can't be successful without all you guys helping us and getting us there. So thank you for that.
Yeah.
Any questions you have for us?
No, I mean, not really. Talk me through a little bit about all the different events. I know about the gala that you've got,
right,
and the golf, and
so
then the biking.
Starts out with,
right,
with the gala, whatever.
Right.
Then we do what is now Fit for Heroes.
Okay.
It was the spinning event, but it's morphed into Fit for Heroes, which it'll be coming up in about a week and a half.
Okay.
It's now kind of morphed into a 2-month campaign, but people can do whatever activity that they're into, and then we go into the wine tasting with Peachy, which is in June. That'll be it's a wine tasting and I guess we'd say wine tasting and art event. Yeah, it's kind of being morphed into.
Okay.
So it raises funds for the Peachy Fund, and then would be the calendar this year. It's the PIF party floats around a little bit, so then we'll have Swing for Heroes into September.
Right.
And then in October, the PIF party.
Okay.
Which should be at the Vogue this year.
Okay.
In person, finally.
Yeah, that'd be nice. World's getting back to normal a little bit.
Yeah. So we can go to the Vogue and pretend like we're younger.
Did we used to go to the Vogue when we were younger?
I think so.
Maybe once or twice. Maybe once or twice.
So yeah, it's a calendar full of events. It's a little bit of a challenge.
Yeah, no, that's awesome though. I mean, all these events that you're raising money and just keep growing and growing and growing, and I think that's a great vision. Yeah, absolutely.
Thank you.
Yeah.
Thanks for coming on and sharing your story.
Yeah,
we appreciate it.
Thanks for having me. Absolutely. Anytime, if you ever need me to do anything or help out with anything, I'm always here. So
all right, you guys are witnesses to that.
This is actually on the record.
Right.
That's right. That's right. I won't be able to deny it going forward.
We have you on 4/13/2022 saying
right.
Exactly.
All right, guys. Well, that's another episode of the Summits Podcast. We thank you for joining us wherever you get your podcasts or on YouTube. Again, hit that subscribe button if you haven't already. We appreciate you, and beat cancer.